Helljumpers, Chapter 14, Part 2. Scootaloo watched in awe as the armored super soldier nimbly got up on the back of the final hunter and emptied a clip of the assault rifle ammo into its neck. The alien roared, but it didn't go down. Scootaloo got out of her moment of awe and also charged the hunter. Latching onto its lower back, she repeatedly stabbed it with her knife. Finally, after having taken enough punishment, the hunter collapsed into a heap and died. Another gunshot rang out and a bullet hit the armor plate on Scootaloo's chest. Ignoring the pain, she jumped behind cover. "Stop firing at the soldier, you son of a bitch!" the male voice of a radio called out. "Sarge, it's an alien!" the Marine who shot said. "I don't care if it's an elite wearing the trooper armor of my glorious corps. The last time I checked, only soldiers fighting with us got a set of that stuff. Alright? Now, come out, soldier." Scootaloo carefully peeked around her cover. Most of the soldiers had already come down and out of the building. A black sergeant major strode forward from the group towards her location, and Scootaloo emerged from cover, standing in front of the man.
"Private Hurricane, 65th Shock Troop Battalion,"
she said, saluting with her wing, keeping her hooves onto the ground so she could jump for cover. "Not anymore. Congratulations, Private, you're now part of this unit. Someone get him a weapon," he said, and a few seconds later she caught an SMG thrown to her by one of the Marines. It wasn't a suppressed one, but it would do. The squad moved into the courtyard next to the one that they were in, killing a Jackal sniper along with a few shielded ones as quickly as they could after arriving. A Pelican lowered into the courtyard as the radio crackled alive once again.
"Sergeant, I need you on that bird."
Ma'am?" the sergeant asked.
"My Pelicans are gonna start airlifting armor and reinforcements into the city. They'll need an escort that isn't afraid of a little hostile ground fire,"
the lady explained. "Understood. I'll keep an eye out for him. And Chief, good luck," he said, but before he could climb in, Scootaloo had come forward.
Sarge, permission to join? I can fly a Pelican if necessary, and I have the balls needed to fly one under heavy fire,"
she told him. A grin appeared onto the sergeant's face. "Well, hop on, Private." Scootaloo jumped into the Pelican with a flap of her wings and took a seat. The Pelican blasted off towards the frigate. Getting a small reprieve, Scootaloo took the time to inspect her chestplate to see if it wasn't critically damaged, only to find two dents. She was just happy to see that the integrity of the armor wasn't really compromised. "So, what inspired a fairy tale creature like you to join the military?" the sergeant asked, and Scootaloo took a good look at him reading his nameplate for the first time.
"Well, I got accidentally teleported to a different planet, and after which, I got shot by a trooper who I actually later befriended and joined up shortly after I heard about the Covenant. I despise police," she grossly summarized. "Nearly got stabbed in the face by an elite along the way," she added, pointing at the scar running across her muzzle. "Well, it seems to me that it didn't really keep you down for long." "Hell no, Sarge," she replied as the pilot called out from the cockpit. "An Emberclad has 2 Pelicans loaded and ready for deployment when you arrive, Sergeant." "Good. Tell them I brought my own pilot," Johnson said to the pilots, who relayed the message. "Well, its current pilot won't be happy about that, Sarge," Scootaloo said in an off-hoof manner. "You know what? He can take his issues and shove them up his arse for all I care. You're my pilot for the moment," the sergeant told the Pegasus as the Pelican landed in the frigate's landing bay. The two made their way over to one of the 2 Pelicans that had a Warthog and a Scorpion attached to the back, but got stopped by a pilot. Sir, why have I been pulled off of the flight?" he bluntly asked. "Because I found a natural-born flyer," he said, pointing at Scootaloo as he pushed past the pilot to the Pelican. The Pegasus, who still had her helmet under her wing, shot the pilot an apologetic glance as she followed the sergeant. A few Marines gave her a weird look as she walked forward to the cockpit, although by this point, Scootaloo was far beyond the point of caring about their opinions of her. She had a Pelican to fly. Scootaloo reset the chair so she had easier access to the control panels and started the engines. "Alright. And cockpit is a go. Just give me some coordinates, Sarge."
A set of coordinates appeared onto the screen along with a comm link with the bridge.
"Alright, I need you to get those vehicles to the Chief, Johnson," the female captain said. "We need him to take out that scarab." "Will do, Captain."
Scootaloo immediately punched the throttle forward, shooting out of the hangar, the other Pelican hot on her tail. The sergeant leaned forward and pushed a few buttons onto the computer and started a tune.
"ETA 10 minutes.
Scootaloo shouted out back over the noise the moment the computer finished the calculations. Flak started peppering the 2 Pelicans, and Scootaloo quickly adjusted course by small fractions every couple of seconds to throw off their aim. Seeing the flak, the pilot of the second Pelican started getting cold feet. "This flak is too heavy to fly through, Sergeant. We have to break off!" "Negative, soldier. Keep your ass onto the current bearing!" Johnson shouted out, but the Pelican was already changing course. Moments later, he was getting hit by the flak, having its port engine explode. The craft exploded before the pilot could even finish a sentence. "Damn it! Hurricane, what's our ETA?"
60 seconds!
Scootaloo called out back, turning the Pelican behind a building out of the range of the Covenant flak cannons. She lowered the Pelican down and released a Scorpion, giving the controls to her co-pilot, and she walked out back to the ramp of the Pelican where she saw Johnson walking up to a soldier. "Hey, where's the rest of your platoon?" he asked.
Wasted, Sarge.
The lady replied. The other Marines spoke up immediately after. "And we will be too, sir, if we don't get the hell out of here." The sergeant stopped in his tracks. "You hit, Marine." No, sir," the Marine stuttered. "Then listen up," Johnson said. "Usually the good Lord works in mysterious ways, but not today. This here is 66 tons of straight-up HE spewing divine intervention. If God is love, then you can call me Cupid," he said, ending with a smile on his face.
But what about the Scarab?
The female asked again. "We've all run the simulations. They're tough, but they aren't invincible. Stay with the Master Chief, he'll know what to do," he told her. "Hurricane, stay with the Chief as backup."
Thanks for the tank. He never gets me anything.
The voice of an AI came over to the comm while Johnson was climbing back into the Pelican. "Oh, I know what the lady's like," he said with a smirk while cocking the machine gun turret at the back of the transport craft.
What are you? I can't find any source of records of your species in any databases outside of mythology.
The AI asked, her name and service number showing onto Scootaloo's HUD, CNT 0452-9, aka Cortana.
Oh, well, I'm a Pegasus, and, well, as for how it's possible for my species to appear in your mythology, well, you'd have to ask an egghead. I believe Twilight has a theory on that.
The cannon of the Scorpion fired once, hitting the Wraith up further onto the bridge.
Interesting.
Cortana replied, staying silent afterward. In Scootaloo's peripheral vision, she could see two Banshees approaching.
"Marines, focus on those Banshees!"
she shouted, getting the attention of two of the Marines who promptly fired a rocket at each of the two flying crafts.
"Score!"
Scootaloo shouted at the two burning hulks. The Marines kept the tactic of shooting the flying craft while the Chief focused onto the bridge. The group made it over to the bridge relatively quickly, blowing up two Wraiths at the end of it that were waiting for them. The tunnels weren't that much more of a problem with the Scorpion tank, as the Chief just blasted through any resistance with high explosive shells. At some point into the tunnel, they encountered a barricade which prevented the tank from going any further. The Spartan nimbly climbed out of the tank and moved up past the barricade, dispatching all enemies behind it at a speed that made the Pegasus extremely envious. Moving up through a sewage out of the highway tunnel, they entered a courtyard filled with Covenant soldiers. The Chief snuck forward to snipe a jackal and snapped his neck, relieving it of his weapon. A warthog drove around the courtyard, coming over to where she, the Chief, and the soldiers were located.
"I could use someone on the gun over here!"
The soldier driving the warthog called out. Scootaloo saw her chance and leapt off the ridge and glided onto the back of the car.
"Give me a moment to lower this thing,"
she told the gunnery sergeant driving the hog. "Well, you better get it done quick because we have something incoming," he shouted back, pointing at two ghosts moving toward the hog. Scootaloo quickly rotated the gun around, having lowered it just down a little bit.
"Eat lead, motherfuckers!"
she shouted as she fired the Gauss cannon. The warthog slid a bit from the recoil of the gun, but the ghost she was targeting flew apart in an awesome spectacle. She turned the cannon towards the second ghost, but it dodged out of the way right as she fired.
"Damn it!"
Scootaloo shouted, adjusting her aim. The ghost backed around and boosted towards the hog with the intention of ramming it. Scootaloo grinned as she saw the vehicle coming towards them in a nearly straight line. She pulled the trigger and the second ghost also was consumed by a purple fireball. But, to her right, she could see the Chief running over to the hog and jumped in, having finished clearing the courtyard. "Go!" he curtly ordered the sergeant, who floored the accelerator driving towards the tunnel system. They cleared out a few Wraiths and a few ghosts along the way before driving into the city where they were with the help of other UNSC forces, destroying a few more other vehicles.
"There are Marines trapped inside of that building, Chief. Concentrate onto the Wraiths. They're the biggest threat,"
Cortana told the Chief as they made their way to a square.
There is a Marine command post in that building. We need to help them deal with that scarab,"
she added, putting a waypoint over at the building the Wraiths were targeting. The Spartan decided not to waste any time, and he jumped off of the Warthog and sprinted over to the Wraith onto the right. Seeing this, Scootaloo focused onto the second one. Peppering the tank with shells, she got its attention. It fired one of its slow-moving plasma bolts at the Warthog that the sergeant easily evaded. Readying another volley, Scootaloo cursed as she saw a ball of plasma coming from the other Wraith, but paused as she saw it arching towards the Wraith she was firing at. The plasma engulfed the second tank moments later, and Scootaloo shot it one more good time for good measure, before disembarking and joining the Master Chief, who had already reached the front door. "Sir, Corporal Perez, A Company, CP's this way. The lieutenant just got hit as soon as we dropped in," a corporal greeted, looking past the chief at Scootaloo.
"She is with us,"
Cortana said before he could ask.
"Who's in charge now, Corporal?"
Right. Sergeant Banks, ma'am. He's pinned down up on top. Come on, I'll show you." The corporal replied initially, stuttering a bit. He led them up a flight of stairs past a few checkpoints to a balcony facing the square. The sergeant was hunkered down with another Marine who was manning a heavy machine gun. He looked over at the new arrivals and jumped up, walking towards the chief. "Well, when I asked for reinforcements, I didn't think they'd send a Spartan." He looked over at Scootaloo. "Nor did I expect a Pegasus."